Seriously. All right, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I always try to make sure the audio is good because I'm always paranoid about that not coming out well. A few mistakes have been made in the past. If you can hear me okay, leave me a message in the comments section. Or the chat room, whatever. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Start in just a second. Shit. Okay. Sorry, I'm down the wrong tube. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got started a little bit late here. Damn. As I was saying, sorry we got started a little bit late here. I think the show must have ran long or something. I was just finishing up making some notes to myself, and then I look at the clock and I say, "Holy shit, it's 11:15 already." That snuck up on me. So, Steve Trowbridge, yeah, wrong pipe. Anywho, so Impact just ended, and I actually felt a little bit better about this one. You have to love it. You really had to love it when the show started with EC3 saying that he didn't give a crap about this GFW invasion angle. Right there, I had a good feeling about this episode. Because it's like the show just became self-aware for a second there, you know? That was great, I will admit. So, anyway, he brings up Jeff Hardy. And I don't know how much mileage there is realistically in this angle of Jeff Hardy having to be EC3's servant. But if we get more segments like this, then I say let's roll with this for as long as they can make it work. If you want to do an angle like this, with one person being forced to work for another, you really have to go all the way with it. Go that extra mile to really humiliate the guy. Otherwise, it's not even worth doing. If they did something like this, with the Bella twins, I think it was it last year? Something like that. Where Brie had to be Nikki's slave or her bitch or whatever, for like a month. I don't think they did anything with that at all. Like, nothing. Here, in one segment, they almost justify this. Because EC3 is just having so much fun with this. And they're really doing it right here. Really humiliating Jeff. Making him carry around EC3's face on a stick and stuff like that. And making him get EC3 water and just saying, hey, it's 1 degree too hot. And he just throws it in his face. Just doing crazy crap like that just to mess with him. That shit was funny. I'm still not sure about the angle and how much like real heat you can glean from it, but this was a really entertaining segment here. I like this a lot. So that segues into a tag match with EC3 and Tyrus versus Matt Hardy and Rockstar Spud. It's a decent enough match when Tyrus isn't tagged in. But the story here is EC3 ordering Jeff to interfere and Jeff refusing to do it, which kind of goes against the whole story of this. Yeah, the stipulation was Jeff has to do whatever EC3 tells him to do. But if Jeff can say, no, I don't want to do that, well, there have to be consequences for this. He has to pay some kind of a price for that. Something more than just hawking EC3's merchandise, which EC3 was probably going to make him do anyway. He has to pay some kind of a price. Otherwise, there's no reason why he's even acting as EC3's servant to begin with. Because if he can just go against EC3's orders with no consequences, then he could just tell EC3 to go fuck himself and just go to hell with the whole thing. So that's a hole in this that needs to be plugged. Jeff needs to be punished next week. Otherwise, aside from that, a pretty good start to Impact here. We were a half hour into the show at this point, and I had genuinely enjoyed everything that happened so far. Unsurprisingly, there was nothing about that first half hour that had anything to do with GFW. Coincidence? You tell me. Then the Jarretts came out. And yeah, they let Karen Jarrett have a mic. Christ. So Jeff demands that Bobby Roode come out and give him back his King of the Mountain title. Despite the fact that Bobby Roode won that piece of shit belt from PJ Black after Jeff apparently vacated it off-screen. And yeah, just a few weeks after Jeff apparently vacated the King of the Mountain title, which was so unimportant that it happened off-screen with zero explanation, now he decides that he wants it back. Because that makes sense, right? Anyway, Bobby Roode comes out, and they all bitch at each other for a minute, and then the segment just kind of ends with nothing getting resolved here, and the Jarretts just walking away. Thank you, TNA writers. Truly, that was time well spent. Then we had a 6-man tag with guys who Drew Galloway said wanted to stand up for TNA in this GFW invasion angle versus guys who just don't give a shit, I guess. Apparently, Kenny King is a heel again, which is odd because he returned as a babyface just last week. I don't know what's going on there. The match felt like it was mostly just a way to get these guys on the show for a few minutes. It wasn't terrible, I guess, but you've got Eli Drake and Kenny King, not to mention your X-Division champion Tigre Uno in this match, all of whom need wins right now, and who gets the pin? Robbie fucking E. So, fuck that noise. Then we had our Knockouts match with Brooke defending her championship against Gail Kim. It was a completely random match with no build-up, but I suppose since Gail just buried the Dollhouse 1-on-3, you can't really say that she's not first in line for a title shot, even though her getting another title run would do nothing for anyone at this point. I was happy to see Brooke. We really haven't seen that much of her since she won the title, which is kind of bullshit. I know she's working with an injury, and she's got her hand all taped up, but it's not stopping her from performing well. I mean, she proved that here. The crowd was behind her. They were having a good match. It even looked like it was going to have the right finish with Brooke going over clean. So, of course, they had to bring out that scrub Lady Tapa to ruin everything. So let me get this straight. Tapa and Awesome Kong had an unimpressive, not-so-good match last time that I don't think a whole lot of people were interested in seeing again. So not only does it look like TNA want to do it again for some idiotic reason, they want to add the Knockouts Championship to the equation. Fuck that shit. Forget about the fact that it makes no fucking sense to put a GFW star in a TNA Championship match when you don't have to after they just revealed their intentions to take over your fucking company, meaning that this is a needless risk with no reward. Okay? TNA fired Tapa because she sucked. Being a part of Global Force Wrestling does not mean that she suddenly doesn't suck anymore. Keep her far away from the Knockouts title, if you please. Far, far away. We don't need to see that. So, yeah, they were having a good segment here, but the second Tapa came out, they just, forget it. They lost me. And, truth be told, I find that happening with a lot of knockout segments lately. And I got to get something off my chest here because I'm just very frustrated with the current state of the knockout division. It really seems to me like the writers had absolutely no plan whatsoever for Brooke after she won the title. I mean, they had all this build up to her dethroning Taryn Terrell, and then suddenly she's doing nothing. And why? Because the focus is still on all the Dollhouse stuff, which Brooke should be a part of. She was feuding with them, took the title from them. She should still be a part of that angle, but for some reason she's not. Because the writers thought it would be a good idea, for some reason, they thought it would make more sense to shoehorn in Velvet Sky for no fucking reason at all. When it makes no sense for her to be in that spot. You're giving her some kind of personal issue with Taryn Terrell in the Dollhouse that just materialized out of thin air, just so they could prove how completely devoid of new ideas they are for the Knockouts by putting the beautiful people back together yet again, even though that makes no fucking sense because they were all feuding with each other 5 minutes ago, and do the feud that no one was asking for, and also makes no sense because the Dollhouse just got buried 1-on-3 by Gail Kim. And then even that falls apart instantly. They're acting like this is some big, huge deal that the beautiful people were back together last week. And it's not. Everyone knows it's not. For Christ's sake, the beautiful people have gotten back together so many times by now you can practically set your watch to it. And now they're back together again for reunion number 15,968 to fight the Dollhouse. Who gives a shit? Gail already finished the Dollhouse off. They're not a threat anymore. Gail made that very clear. And it was just so... It got me so mad how utterly clueless they seem to be with the way they were pumping this up on social media all week, like they think it'll actually generate any buzz when the beautiful people gimmick has been stale for like 5 fucking years now. Why even bother? Even if there were a few boneheads out there who might actually want to see that crap, Angelina's pregnant. She can't wrestle. She's out for a year, and that's if she wants to come back at all after she has the kid. You are trying to make people excited for something that will not happen. Although that was kind of funny. They staged this little impromptu backstage brawl. Angelina gets hastily taken out immediately. And, something tells me that the injuries she sustained here will be enough to keep her out of action for about, 9 months, give or take. So, yeah, that beautiful people reunion sure amounted to a hell of a lot, didn't it? Oh. Thank you very much, Davey Richards. Thank you. You did us all a great service by putting a baby in that woman. So, speaking of Davey Richards, the Wolves get their tag title rematch with Kurt Hawkins and what's his face, and they won them back. They won the titles back, just like that. You know, it all seemed pretty easy actually. So you do this whole thing, make a big deal out of the Wolves getting their TNA tag titles stolen by GFW last week, only for them to win the titles back immediately. Okay. Alright, here's my question. I thought GFW cashing in Magnus's Feast or Fire tag title shot was stupid. Really fucking stupid. But if you weren't going to actually do something with it, weren't going to make some kind of story out of it, why even do it at all? Really, what was the point? Okay, I didn't want them to do it in the first place, but once it's done, I mean, you might as well make the most of it. They didn't even try. It's like, Wolves get their title stolen? Oh, okay, next week, win them right back. Without even telling a story here. It's, you know, there were things you could have done with that, as haphazardly as it was executed last week. And it's nothing. Nothing was made of this. Davey and Eddie get robbed of their titles, won them back the very next week without anything at all being done to make us care about this, and then story over. The whole thing kind of felt like a waste. Good match, though. And I did like Josh Matthews here. You know, he was actually really good at acting indignant about this situation. Especially at the end where he's like, "Spike that son of a bitch and let's get our titles back." You know, I really liked his performance there. Oh, damn. Sorry. So I really liked the way Josh Matthews sold the end of that match there. Oh, and Sanjay Dutt tried to interfere at the end too. And then one of Global Force Wrestling's premier superstars, who was one of the main guys on that graphic they were promoting on Twitter, got punched out by Earl Hebner. Earl Hebner. And this is the invading force that's supposed to be a match for the TNA roster. Yeah, sure it is. Oh, gosh. So then Chris Melendez came out. He calls out Eric Young again. So this is still not done. They got at least one more match in this feud, where I'm assuming that Chris will wrestle on one leg and beat Eric Young in that one. All right, look. God bless the guy for what he did for our country. Give him all the respect in the world, but his mic skills are just not good. I'm not seeing any real charisma from him still. He gets a USA chant because he's the hero soldier who lost his leg. And I'm sorry in advance for the tasteless metaphor, but he can't use that as a crutch forever. He can't. At some point, he's got to be able to cut an engaging promo and deliver at a certain level in the ring. If he can't do that, then he's just exposing himself as not much more than the publicity stunt he was obviously hired to be. You know, again, I don't like saying that, but it's, you know, brutal reality of it. I mean, it says a lot that I prefer Mahabali Shera's promos to Chris Melendez's promos when Shera can barely speak English. I mean, I actually kind of like that interview segment that Shera did with Josh Matthews. The guy is a project right now, but you know what? Sher does seem to have some charisma that comes out when he's on screen. I'm not saying he'll be a main eventer tomorrow, and if TNA still had a developmental system, that's where he'd be. But I don't think Mahabali Shera is a bad investment. You know, there's something about him that I like. I think it's worth cultivating. And then we got the main event: Drew Galloway versus Chris Mordetsky in a lumberjack match for the main advantage in the Lethal Lockdown match that will decide whether or not the Jarretts and GFW take over TNA. A match which will coincidentally happen next week on Impact instead of a bigger show. I should tell you a lot about this angle, actually. So, yeah, the former Chris Masters was the main event. Think about that for a minute. You know, the match was nothing memorable because Chris Mordetsky. Quite frankly, the fact that he was even in the main event of Impact had me shaking my head. Inevitably, everything breaks down. Jeff Jarrett's about to El Kabong Galloway with the guitar, but then Eric Young grabs the guitar, and wouldn't you know it, he takes out Galloway himself. Uh-oh. Alright, look. The Eric Young thing was stupid. The second he jumped in the ring, you knew what he was going to do. But I actually didn't hate the segment overall. I think they worked in enough chaos here with the stuff happening outside the ring to keep things interesting and to compensate for the fact that Chris Mordetsky is really uninteresting and the EY swerve was kind of dumb. And if you absolutely had to put Mordetsky over, at least they protected Drew. I'm not saying it was a great segment, but it didn't leave me wanting to bash my head against the wall. And for this GFW angle, that's saying something. I think it's only fair to point that out. There were some problems with this Impact. Some frustrating things happened. But still, I didn't think this one was that bad, honestly. I really didn't. I kind of enjoyed this Impact. Even though the GFW stuff is really grating on me, there is a sense of them trying to wrap it up in a big hurry now. And that is strange considering what a big deal they made out of it when it started. And it didn't even start that long ago. But it's not something I'm going to complain about because I didn't want them to do the angle in the first place. Otherwise, we got some good matches, some good comedy. EC3 was his usual awesome self. Overall, despite the problems, I felt like this Impact came off a lot better than some of the recent installments. I enjoyed this one for the most part. So, there you go with that. Let's see. All right, here we go. Going to the peanut gallery. The Save Me won. I guess GFW winning last week was just so there would be no leftover Feast or Fired plot hole. Honestly, it shouldn't have even amounted to that much. I would think that once Magnus left the company, that would have rendered the Feast or Fired thing null and void. I mean, the fact that it was somehow still valid, still eligible to be cashed in by a non-TNA employee after Magnus had left the company made no sense. It was stupid. They couldn't even have Magnus involved in the fucking angle. Okay, we just have the Jarretts mention that, oh yeah, Magnus gave us this off screen. Oh, by the way, Magnus left TNA and he works for GFW now. Because we never bothered to mention that before. Yeah, and he gave us this and now we're cashing it in. Even though we're not TNA employees, we can still cash this in. Just, the whole thing was a clusterfuck. I would have preferred they not do it at all, and it's better left forgotten. JGH Zilla, why would he? He knew it was happening and Dixie wouldn't listen. Not sure to whom that's referring. Must have missed something here. Steve Trowbridge, the biggest mystery of all in TNA, why is Tyrus still employed? That is an excellent question. The world may never know, but seriously, this guy is shit. I'd rather watch Rob Terry. Strong words. I'd rather watch neither of them. Yeah, why is Tyrus still employed? I don't know. The guy is awful. Just boring as shit. As EC3's toady, okay, but you don't no pushes for that guy. Christ. JGH Zilla. So EC3 and Bobby Roode shouldn't be forced to clean up Dixie and TNA's mess. You know, frankly, I would. At this point, I just prefer they stay away from the GFW angle entirely. Roode never trusted Jarrett, and he was right to. EC3 wants nothing to do with it, clearly, and good for him. He's smart to not want anything to do with it because the angle sucks. I would prefer EC3 just not be involved in it. He's better off for it. And Bobby Roode being the king of the mountain champion is not going to do him any favors. That belt is cursed. Again, I say again, just throw it in the fucking dumpster and forget about it. That belt is worthless. Steve Trowbridge, your opinions on Evie, New Zealand wrestler. I don't think I've ever seen Evie. I know of her. Don't think I've ever actually seen her. Clover Cold 89, EC3 was so funny. Yes, he was, damn it. That was a funny segment they started with. Again, I wasn't sure about the whole Jeff Hardy has to be EC3's servant thing. But, if anyone could milk some entertaining stuff out of that, it would be EC3. He was funny. I love his face on the stick that Jeff has to carry around. That thing cost $13,000, too. So they're getting their money's worth out of that. Steve Trowbridge. Hopefully the dollhouse taking out Angelina means she'll be out for good because of her pregnancy. Well, it means she's out for, I figure at least a year. I figure she's, she's going to be about maybe 2-3 months along by now. So you figure a year is, a good estimate. If she'd be coming back. And I'm not so sure that she will be coming back. I mean, you consider, she's over, she's on the wrong side of 30 now. She's around that age when a lot of women wrestlers hang it up. She just got married. Now she's having a baby. Madison Rayne came back, immediately after having a baby, but, she's a number of years younger than Angelina. I could honestly see Angelina walking away from wrestling after this. And, would not be disappointed if she did. I don't think she's got anything left to do in wrestling. At least not left in TNA, that's for sure. What's she gonna do? Reform the Beautiful People another couple of times? Does anyone want to see that? Really? Go make babies with Davey Richards. Just go do that. Save me one. With Angelina out, maybe they will bring Rebby Hardy in to take her place. There were some. I do remember hearing some rumors that Rebby Sky was on her way in before she got pregnant. I don't know how she feels about wrestling these days, since she had the kid. Although I'm sure TNA would inquire, because that's the kind of thing they like to do. They want to keep Matt Hardy happy. So I wouldn't be surprised if they brought her in. Don't know too much about Rebby Sky, honestly. Whatever. Suppose I could do worse. Although every time a spot opens up in the knockout roster, I keep pointing at it and saying, Kaylee Ray, goddammit. And then it keeps on not happening. A hole will be used eventually. Steve Trowbridge, better Rebby than Angelina, my opinion anyway. Yeah, probably. I don't know what Rebby Sky's mic skills are like. I've seen very little of her in the ring, but she's probably a more dynamic wrestler than Angelina is at this point. And let's be honest, Angelina's been phoning it in for a long time now, pretty much since she came back. JGH Zilla, Karen Raptor should never be near a mic. I agree. Here comes herpes. People still watch TNA. Yeah, believe it or not, people still do watch TNA. If you're surprised by this. All right. Well, I'm surprised that you're watching a live stream about people where people are talking about TNA, and you're surprised that they still watch it. Kind of wonder how you found your way to this live stream then. Yeah, Steve Trowbridge. I find Joffrey to be more likable than Karen Jarrett. Burn. You know what? Joffrey was a great villain. We hated him, but we hated him for the right reasons. Karen is just irritating. You know, I don't hate her because she's a heel. I hate her because I just want her to get the fuck off my TV. So in that sense, yes, Joffrey was more likable than Karen Jarrett. JGH Zilla. Jeff is a moron. He already gave the belt up to someone else who lost it. Yell at them to get it back. Yeah, what kind of sense does that make? He voluntarily vacates the GFW, the King of the Mountain title off screen, and then he yells at Bobby Roode to give it back to him. Dude, if it means that much to you, why'd you give it up in the first fucking place? Were they even thinking about this before they did it? Dude, either he wants the title or he doesn't. Pick one. You can't go back and forth like this. Let's see. Jeff Atwood, with Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil 2 getting remakes, what games would you like to see get a remake? Well, again, I'm really not a gamer. I'd like it if Metal Gear Solid got a remake. You know, the original one for PlayStation. But only if they could do it with David Hayter. And Hideo Kojima. Because apparently Hideo Kojima left the company or something. I don't know what happened there, but if they could get Kojima and Hayter back, remake Metal Gear Solid from PlayStation. Or, you know what? Remake the original Metal Gear from the NES. Like way back in the day. For the original Metal Gear for the original NES. Remake that one. Kenny King is becoming the Big Show, isn't he? Oh, God. You know, I can't really deny that a comparison, there are similarities there after the last couple of weeks. I mean, he comes back, he's a heel in the Beatdown Clan, then he's off TV for a while, comes back as a face, the very next week he's a heel again with no explanation. He kind of is the Big Show now. Damn. That's depressing. WeBear50, I have to go back to my TNA TV deal question. My choice this time is FX and WG in America. All right. I haven't put much thought into where TNA could wind up if they have to leave Destination America. I think FX is probably being too optimistic. That's probably a bigger network than they could realistically land on at this point. Again, with their current viewership, they don't have a lot of bargaining power. So I think they'd probably have to settle for anything they could get at this point. Duke Nukem 3DO. I am not even going to dignify that with a response. The Save Me One. Karen has a nice body. The face has had too much work done. Why would either take TNA? I don't know what that means. Steve Trowbridge, the Knockouts match was a clusterfuck. You would think since Brooke is the champion, she should just retain the belt against Gail clean, and her being the one to fight off Tapa. Logic isn't for TNA. Yeah. They were having a good match, I thought, until Tapa came out and ruined everything. It looked like Brooke had the pin on Gail clean. I don't know why she couldn't pin her. I mean, she had a fucking 2 count, and then she just lets go of Gail to look at Tapa, who's outside the fucking ring. You couldn't wait 1 second and let her get the pinfall? Would that have hurt anyone? No. And then Tapa gets the better of her, and of course Gail gets to fight her off, and then Kong comes out, for fuck's sake. I suppose we should be grateful that if they have to put Tapa in the ring again, it won't be in a one-on-one match. I mean, if it's going to be with Kong and Gail and Brooke, they can kind of carry the action so Tapa doesn't have to do that much, which would be the smart way to book it. The fact that they're even doing it at all makes no sense. Why would you put Tapa in a championship match, in a TNA championship match, when Tapa works for GFW? You're under no fucking obligation to put her in the match, so you're giving a GFW star another chance to steal one of your championships for no reason? Why? For what purpose? You're risking losing another one of your championships to GFW for no reason. There is no reason to put Tapa in a title match. It's like they're not even thinking about this stuff before they book it. Stupid. So apparently Havoc wasn't good enough to keep around, but Tapa is good enough to bring back. Bullshit. I agree. I hate what TNA did to Havoc and Brittany. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I thought Havoc was working out really well. And then all of a sudden, she's just gone. I don't get it. And with Brittany, they never even gave her a chance. I mean, she was booked horribly wrong from pretty much from the day one. Well, actually, day one, they let her beat Gail Kim in her first match. And then after that, everything went to shit. Booked all wrong, written all wrong. They have her completely miscast as a heel against a babyface Madison Rayne. Like that was ever going to work out. It's completely idiotic. Duke Nukem 3DO. Your thoughts on Kana signing with WWE? I was surprised by it. They don't seem to be really big on the ethnic girls in general. I don't know if Kana even speaks English. So that one surprised me. Do I think she'll be used properly? Do any of their divas get used properly? Maybe on NXT, but when she gets the main roster, no. More than likely, she'll be put in some kind of comedy role because that's the kind of thing that Vince does. Well, good for her getting a chance to make some real money. I'm happy for her. It's another good worker for the Divas division, I guess. But the problem with the Divas division is not lack of quality workers at this point; it's lack of quality writing. Yeah, they have good workers. At least enough of them to make a good division. Problem is the writing still sucks, and the writing for the Divas is showing no signs of getting any better. And until it does, just gonna be more of the same shit. Regis Rodriguez, TNA and Logic. I paid you for a smarter man than that. Well, you know what? I don't expect a ton of logic out of TNA at this point. But I will always point out when they don't show any. I always want logic. I want things to make sense. And so I will always point out when they don't. But am I expecting a ton of logic from them? No, the writers have... They kind of show me where they're at. I don't think it's something they're incredibly concerned with at this point. Alright, I'm skipping over a few of these here. Some of these are not really relevant to what we're talking about. Steve Trowbridge. Only good thing about the knockouts on this show was when Taryn was saying, "I'm so sick of Velvet, I'm so sick of Velvet." My thoughts exactly. Yeah, mine too. But again, they're kind of showing the holes in the story here. Like, oh, I'm so sick of Velvet, I'm so sick of Velvet. That's interesting because your issues with her only started like 2 weeks ago. When she just suddenly confronted you and helped Gail, attack you backstage. When Velvet just magically decided she had an issue with you for some reason. For no reason at all. That's when this issue just materialized. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm so sick of Velvet, I'm so sick of Velvet. Again, you're just showing that you shoehorn Velvet in there without a good reason to put her in there. Again, showing the flaws in the writing and the inconsistencies in the writing. It's just... Velvet had no reason to be involved in this feud with the Dollhouse, and they kind of proved that because they didn't have a good reason to put her in there in the first place. So they just put her in there for no reason, essentially. Steve Trowbridge. Between now and the next Slammiversary, TNA should just break up the Dollhouse, turn Jade face, and have her go after the title. I wouldn't want them to break up the Dollhouse. I think it's... Even though they've kind of shit the bed with the booking of the Dollhouse, I do still think the group is viable. I mean, you could rebuild them. That's doable. If they could do that and not have them get buried by Gail this time, I think you could still get more mileage out of the group, certainly. It seems like they have enough of an investment in the Dollhouse to want to try to keep them relevant with doing new things and stuff. So, no, I wouldn't break them up yet. I don't think you have to break them up to have Jade go for the title. I mean, obviously, Taryn... It seems like Taryn has some kind of issue where she can't be featured too much right now. Maybe she's injured or something, I don't know. But yeah. If Taryn, is not able to wrestle at this point, put your muscle behind Jade. You have her be like the enforcer for the Dollhouse. Give her a push. Why the hell not? Jade versus Gail Kim could be a great match if they were actually serious about it and just weren't putting her in there for Gail to steamroll over. Let them have a competitive match. That'd be great. Have Jade go for the title. Why the hell not? And Trevor Lee from PWG. Okay. All right. So that's the guy's name. Excuse me. Clover Cold 89. Trevor Lee was really good in the match. I never said he wasn't. It was a good match. We Bear 50. I wish they did an ROH versus TNA angle instead of a crossover on the same network. Well, TNA offered, but they offered the same deal GFW to. You'd think a TNA ROH cross promotional thing would be kind of a no-brainer considering they're on the same network. But considering considering the different taping schedules, that would probably be almost impossible, even if ROH wanted to do it, and I don't think they do. From a business standpoint, that's stupid. So you don't want to cross promote with a company with a show that gets higher ratings than you? Why not? Are you that set in your ways that you can't see a good thing when it's offered to you? Okay, you don't like the TNA product. All right, well, do you like making money? If a company that gets higher ratings than you wants to do cross promotion, you say yes. That's just good business. Again, I don't know what happened there. All right. The way I heard it, TNA might have been interested in it, but I think ROH wasn't. That's what I heard. Of course, I didn't hear very much, but whatever. Even if both sides were on the same page with the taping schedules, I don't know how they could possibly do it. But that's just me. And wow, I lost my place. Damn. Oh, fuck. Holy shit, these got ahead of me. HBE Hain 4441. What's the point with Eric Young costing Drew Galloway the match when he is on the TNA roster? Yeah, I don't get it either. I do know that he's been booked for GFW shows. So maybe they're doing an angle where Jarrett made him an offer and he couldn't refuse somehow. I don't know. Makes no sense to me. But apparently they're doing some kind of cross promotional thing where wrestlers can work for both companies, where they're allowed to work for both companies as long as they don't sign with anybody else. Whatever. It's confusing. The swerve itself was stupid. Steve Trowbridge, would you be cool if Kimberly or Jennifer Blake were brought in to replace Angelina Love? At least it would be something a little fresh. I don't know. Don't really know much about Kimberly, but Jennifer Blake, hell yeah. She's great. I wanted them to sign her when she had that tryout match years ago. Back in, what was it? Fucking... I don't know. I heard she had a match, I think it was like an 09 or something like that. I heard she was well received, and the way I read that the people backstage liked her, and that the expectation was that she would be signed eventually, and then nothing happened with that. It's like, well, why the fuck not? She's great. Yeah, she looks like $1,000,000. She's a great wrestler. She's unique. You know, she's Canadian. The Canadian luchadora. You can market that. You know, unless it was something like she was forbidden from working for TNA because of her commitments to AAA or something like that. Unless it was something like that, then they're stupid for not bringing her in. Kimberly, I really don't know too much about, but Jennifer Blake, if you could get her the fuck in there. Deontay 320. I guess those Undertaker powers Gail Kim acquired fighting the Dollhouse is not effective against Tapa, the very woman last I checked that Gail squashed. Yeah, it's so stupid. And Gail beat her, by my recollection, pretty easily when Tapa left the company after TNA fired her, and now all of a sudden she's some juggernaut just because she's part of Global Force Wrestling. Is the same woman. She sucked then. She doesn't seem to be that much better now. But now all of a sudden she's a force that can give Gail Kim problems? Oh, fuck that. Familia Soldier 82. Thoughts on the Jimmy Snuka arrest? I really don't have any. As I heard it, it was for some kind of incident that happened years ago that I don't really know about anything about. So I don't really have any thoughts on that. John Smith, EC3 is our champion forever. Yes, damn it. Okay. Steve Trowbridge, who would you rather see get pushed to the world title if it ever happens, Davey or Eddie? Personally, I'd go with Davey. May or may not happen, though. If I had to choose, probably Davey. I think he'd be a great candidate for option C. I don't think there's a lot of long-term potential in either of them as a world champion, though. You know, in ROH, that's one thing. Even though Davey Richards' world title reign in ROH was not all that well received. But, you know, TNA is a different beast. Now, I would be hesitant to really overexpose Davey in that regard. ROH was the pro wrestling, is the the very traditional pro wrestling company. And in that capacity, a guy like Davey Richards as your world champion can work. And TNA, which is more storyline driven, where you have to be a little more dynamic on the microphone and be a little more entertaining on the microphone, I think would not really highlight Davey's strengths, or Eddie's for that matter. So if I had to pick one, I'd go with Davey, but I don't think, long term, I don't think that would work out. HBE Hain 4441, do you think Angelina should come back as the Wolves manager, or if Davey does a singles run? I'm sure they're a lovely couple in real life, but in kayfabe, I don't see how their characters go together. They're completely different. Davey's like the no nonsense, really serious guy. Angelina's the flamboyant, boisterous, bitchy heel. I don't think it makes any sense. How scary would it be if Karen Jarrett was doing New Day style promos, especially if Xavier Woods with a trombone? How about give Karen the trombone, let her play that instead of talking? So she's playing the trombone, and as long as she's playing the trombone, she's not talking. That would be an improvement. Teenage chewed me out on Facebook for spoiling the One Night Only Gut Check pay-per-view. Micah won it, and I assume almost everyone knows about it now. Teenage needs to quit shooting themselves in the foot. They chewed you out for... Why? The results were already online for anyone to read if they wanted to. What, they got pissed at you for spoiling something that was already out there? That seems kind of unfair. Regis Rodriguez. I admire your ability to be surprised by the plot holes and stupidity. I watch because I enjoy wrestling, period, but the stupidity has become commonplace. Oh, I'm not surprised by them. I just get indignant about them. And kind of offended by them. Now, the plot holes and stupidity don't surprise me anymore. Doesn't mean I can't get upset by them, though. HBE Hain 4441, where the hell is Crazy Steve? He was toning down the wacky stuff and people were noticing that he can actually wrestle. Good question. I think they said, I know, offhandedly that the menagerie went back to the carnival circuit. Maybe he went with them. It doesn't seem like they had any plans for the guy. The ND320, Kurt Angle City is not re-signing with TNA once his contract expires. Yeah, I heard that too. Good for Kurt. I mean, he's done. He's been with TNA a long time. If he wants to move on, you can't really blame him for that. It's another big star lost, so that's another body blow. But not gonna hate on Kurt if he wants to move on. Lucky STR8. I've been away for a while, sorry, but I heard the GFW versus TNA feud is over next week. Why bother when Bound for Glory is next month? I don't know. It's pretty out of whack if you think about it. I think they're gonna wrap up the GFW thing, and then something like 2 weeks, and then I think Bound for Glory is something like 2 weeks after that. So they wrap up the biggest storyline they've got going, and then give them 2 weeks to build up to their biggest show of the year, or what's supposed to be their biggest show of the year. I don't get it. It's you figure that out. I have no explanation. I really don't. I say it again, Tapa, the very woman Gail squashed almost a year ago, gets Gail and puts her down. I know. Makes no fucking sense. You should check out Evie versus Kaylee Ray on Shimmer Volume 67. I know you said you hadn't seen Evie wrestle, but that match would be the perfect exposure, trust me. Oh, if it's a Kaylee Ray match, I will look for it. I will look for it and try to find it. Steve Trowbridge, near the end, they started making Brittany into a wannabe version of AJ Lee. Yeah, there were some similarities there, and sadly, it was not. They were not booking or writing Brittany to her strengths at all. I think she tried her best to make something out of it, but she was in kind of a losing situation there. And they just weren't giving her anything good to work with. I think she tried like hell to make it work, but it didn't come together for her, which is kind of a shame because I didn't think she got a fair shot. Save me one, I think calling Tapa is just the whole pick on someone your own size thing, have the two giant ladies beat the hell out of each other. Yeah, okay, that works on paper, but they tried it once and it didn't really go that well. I guess what they're going for is what they wanted was the spectacle of it, but that only goes so far. Eventually, you have to back it up in the ring, and the chemistry was not there, and Tapa is still not very good. Just probably why they're having a four-way this time, so they can cover for Tapa, and she doesn't have to do that much. Steve Trowbridge, Cheerleader Melissa, Madison Eagles, and Melanie Cruz would be the perfect badass heel stable for TNA in the Knockout division. Oh, that'd be so cool if they got Madison Eagles. Oh, I seriously doubt it'll ever happen. But wow, that would be great. Oh, fuck. Lost my place again. Do you think Velvet will leave after her contract expires because of Bully Ray returning to WWE? Yeah, possibly. It seems like she goes back and forth. about the way she feels about the company. Uh, she, you know, it seems like she likes being there when she's there, but every time she leaves, she seems happy to be gone. I know she badmouthed the company on Twitter when she was gone last time. Oh, but then she comes back and everything's cool again. But yeah, I mean, will she leave when her contract expires? Maybe. I hope so. I wouldn't miss her. Um, do I think she could get into WWE at that point? No. They've had they've had opportunities to sign her in the past and never cared enough to. Um, I don't think Bully Ray being back in WWE would change that. You know, I don't think he has that kind of pull with them that he had in TNA. The Save Me One, is the post comic book show coming back next month? Yeah. Hell yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to starting that up again. So yeah. Get ready for that. Might have to do it on a different day. Possibly. Plus, there's a whole bunch of new comic shows coming out. I don't know. And, well, I'm not going to be able to review all of them. I think 3 with Flash, Arrow, and Shield was a good, comfortable number. 4 was pushing it. 5 was just too much. So we'll see. Maybe I could do like truncated reviews of Supergirl. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's definitely coming back next month. Deontay 320. Apparently, Jarrett and Gaburik had problems, hence the lethal lockdown being hot-shotted. Yeah, I heard about that. And it just it's another example of what a mess creative is right now. If you can't just make a plan and stick to it, to the point where you have to hotshot stuff and wrap it up so hastily, leaving so much story not really addressed, plot holes every which way, and just wrapping it up just like that 2 weeks before what's supposed to be the biggest show of the year. They need a complete creative overhaul. If stuff like this is even happening, that's a bad sign. That's really bad. Your name is Gail Kim. Did you watch the Cena prank call video to reference Gail being the Cena of the Knockouts villain? Also Gail Hydra. No, I did not see that. Sounds funny though. Felt like the WWF invasion of 2001. Oh, Christ. I wouldn't go that far. Get the invasion angle. One of the worst botched storylines, if not the worst botched storyline in the history of wrestling. It was that bad. That should have been the biggest angle in history of the business. And it was that bad. Absolute fucking disaster. The invasion angle. Honestly, I don't think anything can compare. As bad as this GFW invasion thing has been, I don't think anything will compare to the invasion angle. In terms of the amount of potential squandered, and just that they could actually fuck it up to that level, it was just, blows my mind to this day. Ricardo Vasquez, will they get a TV deal again or nah? No idea. Too early to say. Anything could happen at this point. Steve Trowbridge, they were pissed at me for spoiling something that was already spoiled, and they always have the same excuse for spoilers. They need to try to get it together already. Well, if they were reading you the riot act for doing that, that's dumb. the show results are online. For the one that only shows, they're online for months before those things air. I could see them being annoyed if you're revealing the results on the Facebook page, but doing it anywhere else, I mean, come on. I mean, it's if you're on the internet, it's hard not to be spoiled at this point. Why are they willing to lose talent like Joe and Bad Influence, but continue to keep Robbie E? Probably because Robbie is cheaper. Joe and Bad Influence had, they put their time in and they probably commanded higher paychecks. Whereas Robbie is lower on the totem pole and probably they can probably get him for less money. That would be my guess. Although why they even employ that guy still is just I have no idea. Oddly enough, Brittany has had a lot of success since leaving TNA. She went on to win Shine and the NWA Women's titles. I think she's holding them simultaneously right now. Yeah, Brittany's doing really well for herself right now. I thought she's got a bunch of championships at the moment. So she's not staying idle. I mean, she's done very well. I think she's been improving her mic skills too. I saw a recent promo of hers from Shine. I mean, she's gotten a lot more confident with her speaking skills. I mean, she still kind of sounds like she's reading off a teleprompter and stuff. I don't think she'll ever be the most natural speaker in the world, but she has gotten a lot better in that regard. William Shankar, you have an ugly as fuck head. Okay. You have a stupid last name. Thank you for your support. Portia freaking Perez for the knockout division. Have her debut by super kicking Karen. I would pop so fucking hard for that. Get one of those Portia Perez hates me shirts and just drape it over Karen's unconscious body. Monster Brand Man, have you seen the Knockouts one night only pay-per-view? Andrea, Rosie, a lot of love against Kong. Rosie lost a lot of weight. I've not seen that one, no. I keep meaning to. I just never seem to get around to it. I think that's the one with Cherry Bomb versus Gale, right? I really want to see that one, because I've heard a lot of great things about that match. Sooner or later, I will get around to it. Haven't seen it yet, though. Okay. William Shankar, are you here for any reason other than to tell me how ugly I am and, how I look like shit? Just curious. How would you feel about Spud and Mandrews forming a tag team and then feuding with the Wolves for the tag titles? I'd be cool with it. I'm surprised they haven't done it already. I think Spud and Mandrews as a tag team makes a lot of sense. God knows they're not doing anything with Mandrews right now. And Spud is kind of without a storyline currently, and TNA don't have a lot of tag teams. They got the Wolves and the Hardys aren't working as a tag team right now. Why the hell not make them a tag team? That'd be a great idea. Did you hear about what Gunner did to a fan for calling him Dixie's reject? No, I did not. Monster Brand Man, where is Shauna? WWE signed Kana. Knockouts don't blow away the divas like they used to with the talent. WWE are getting an NXT. Where is Shauna? Well, she had a match on Explosion on when they were in the UK, either on this past tour or the one before it. She had a good match with Gail Kim. I thought she was a no-brainer signing, honestly. I thought she did really well. And for whatever reason, I guess they passed on her, which was stupid on their part. So I don't know why they would. I don't know why they would do that. But yeah, I guess they had a look at Shauna and they passed, which I guess they had their reasons. God knows what they are. Thoughts on the Young Bucks? I like the Young Bucks. They're great. My one complaint about them in the past is that they were kind of personality deficient, and they've really worked on that. They're entertaining now. I like the Young Bucks a lot. Probably the best tag team in the world at this point. Looks like Sarita is heading to WWE as well. Yep. Yeah, she's going to be an NXT trainer. That I really don't understand. I mean, you could put her in NXT or the main roster, no problem. I mean, she's not the youngest. She wouldn't be the youngest girl on the roster, but she still looks like $1,000,000. I'm sure she can still wrestle like it too. Of course, I'm sure she'll be a great trainer for them in NXT, just like Sarah Del Rey is. And I think that's about it. All right, it's about 12:30. Good time to wrap it up. Okay, so yeah. All right. One more question. Steve Trowbridge, thoughts on Athena supposedly signing with WWE? If it's true, good for her. I'm happy for her. Am I optimistic that she'll be used right? No. But I'm happy that she'll be making money. She deserves it. She's really talented. She's another one that I was hoping TNA would sign at some point. But, you know, their loss. And that'll be it for me tonight. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Same time next week. I think we're going to stick with the live streams for a little bit. They do help me free up a lot of extra time, which is nice. Plus, it's nice getting to interact with more people here instead of spending hours and hours making the normal reviews. So this is a nice change of pace for me, and I'm starting to like doing it this way. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think for the immediate future, we'll stick doing it this way. Sorry. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Later.